Let's talk about a forgotten war. It's a story that takes us to the roof of the world, more than a century ago. But you know what? It's also a story about a very modern battle, a fight over how history gets told, what we choose to remember, and what gets deliberately, well, erased. All right, let's get into it. This quote from a recent academic paper, it just nails it, right? The official stories we learn about empires and colonialism, they're often not the whole story. They're polished, they're curated, and sometimes, yeah, they're designed to hide something much, much darker. And this right here, this is the whole conflict in a nutshell. On one hand, you've got the official line, diplomatic missions, civilizing forces, but when you start digging, you find this hidden history of invasions, massacres, and a full-on effort to erase the proof. This isn't just a small gap in the records. It's a massive chasm between two completely different versions of the past. Now, you might think this is all dusty, old history, but it's not. This exact clash of stories is right at the heart of today's culture wars. How a country remembers its past, especially a colonial one, really shapes its identity right now, in the present. And that is a fiercely contested space. And if you want to see just how powerful that official story is, look at this. A poll from 2014 found that a majority of the British public still saw the empire as a source of pride. It's a pretty clear sign that the cleaned-up version of history has had a huge, lasting impact, which makes uncovering these hidden stories even more important. Okay, so how does this whole process of, historical shaping actually work? To really get it, we're going to zoom in on one specific case study, the 1904 British expedition into Tibet. It is a perfect example of that massive gap between the official story and what really happened on the ground. So the official story, the one they told everyone, was all about big picture politics. Lord Curzon, who was the Viceroy of India, was worried Russia was getting a little too cozy with Tibet. This was the peak of the Great Game, that rivalry between the British and Russian empires. So the whole thing was framed as a necessary move to secure borders. They even called it a diplomatic mission. But then you see this and you realize this was not a meeting of equals, not even close. On one side, you've got over 3,000 professional soldiers with the absolute latest in military tech, Maxim machine guns, modern artillery. On the other side, a bunch of Tibetan peasant conscripts pulled together at the last minute with old muskets and swords. The difference was just staggering. So what did all that geopolitical maneuvering actually look like on the ground? Well, this is where that whole diplomatic mission story just completely falls apart. Picture this. It's March 31st, 1904, a place called Shumikshenko. The British force is marching along, and they find the road blocked by about 3,000 Tibetans. They've built this simple, 5-foot-high rock wall. They weren't attacking. They were just standing there, blocking the way. What happened next was a massacre. And you don't have to take my word for it. Listen to this. It's from Lieutenant Arthur Haddo, the guy commanding the machine guns. He said he got so sick of the slaughter that he just stopped firing, even though his general had ordered him to kill as many as possible. His own words just paint this absolutely chilling picture. And the numbers? Well, the numbers speak for themselves. In just a few minutes, somewhere between 600 and 700 Tibetans were dead. The British casualties? 12 wounded. This wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. And that so-called diplomatic mission had shown its true face. Okay, so if a massacre like that happens, how on earth does it just disappear from the history books? And that brings us to maybe the most crucial point, the deliberate, systematic erasure of the historical record. Well, there was a reason, a top-secret reason. It was called Operation Legacy. As colonies started gaining their independence, the British government launched this covert campaign to systematically destroy or hide the most incriminating documents, records of torture, massacres, you name it. This wasn't just files getting lost. This was an official policy. And believe me, this wasn't some haphazard cleanup. They had a whole system. Step 1, identify any files that could, quote, embarrass Her Majesty's government. Step 2, destroy most of them, burn them, dump them in the ocean. And step 3, the really, really damning stuff, was secretly flown back to the UK and buried in a secret archive, its existence denied for decades. But here's the thing about history. It has a way of coming back to the surface.
And in recent years, a whole new generation of activists and historians have started the incredibly hard work of digging up this hidden past.
So who's doing this work? Well, one of the key groups on the front lines is the Museum of British Colonialism. It's not a real building, but a digital network of activists. They focus on another buried history, the brutal crackdown on the Mau Mau rebellion in Kenya. And they actually go out and find the physical traces of violence that were scrubbed from the official record. And the stuff they're finding is just mind-blowing. They've located old detention camps and discovered the evidence is hiding in plain sight. At one site, they found old cell blocks and even a building locals still call a torture chamber that's now being used as part of a school. The past is literally built into the foundations of the present. So let's bring this all back home. What does an invasion in 1904 or detention camps in the 1950s have to do with us right now? Well, it brings us back to that central question: who gets to control the story? Because here's the thing you have to remember. This fight over history isn't really about the past. It's an active, ongoing struggle happening today. The stories we tell, the monuments we build, the archives we keep or destroy, all of it shapes how we see ourselves, our countries, and our world right now. You know that old saying, history is written by the victors. But as we've just seen, that first draft is often full of convenient lies and things left out on purpose. So the real question for us, the one this whole story leaves us with, is this: who gets to write the final draft?